Welcome to Debt Matters. If you're running a business, one of the biggest struggles is always maintaining a healthy cash flow.
Always.
And that means you have to be pretty ruthless about accounts receivable. We're here because, well, so many businesses just wait too long. They let a manageable problem become a real emergency.
They do. And that's precisely what we want to zero in on today. We're talking about those critical inflection points. Our whole goal is to pull out the key signs, the behavioral ones, the financial ones, that basically scream, stop what you're doing internally.
And get help.
And get specialized help
Yeah.
immediately.
And we're really framing this around the cost, the cost of doing nothing. It's not just the invoice itself. It's the time, the internal resources you burn chasing something that's already gone bad.
Exactly. It's about protecting your core business from that distraction.
Yeah.
And, the first warnings often pop up way before the debt gets officially old. The really compelling signs, they're all about behavior, about the debtor's communication or the lack of it.
Okay, so behavioral red flags, before we even talk about money, what are the patterns that should make a business owner just, switch gears from a polite reminder to something more serious?
The most dangerous one, by far. It's a complete communication stop.
Just nothing.
Nothing. And this isn't just slow replies. I mean, that's annoying, but it can be normal. This is silence. The client has gone completely dark.
So no return calls, emails are just going into a black hole.
Exactly. Vanishing into the ether. That silence is so much worse than a difficult conversation.
That silence feels like a choice, doesn't it? But how do you tell the difference between a client who is actively dodging you and one who's just, completely disorganized or swamped with their own problems?
That's a really important distinction to make. Look, a disorganized client, they might send you messy communication. It might be sporadic, but they're still engaging.
So there's still a pulse.
There's a pulse. That's a great way to put it. Silence, on the other hand, it suggests a conscious decision to avoid you. It often means they know they can't pay, and the strategy is to just stall, hoping you'll, eventually write it off or just go away. It's a deliberate strategy.
Okay, so what if they are still talking but they're not paying? What kind of behaviors then push it into that emergency category?
Then you need to look for the cycle of false promises. This is where the debtor just keeps repeating the same excuses over and over with absolutely no follow-through.
Like, the check is in the mail.
The classic, the check is in the mail. Or, oh, our accounting system crashed, we have to reprocess it next week.
And then you hear that again 2 weeks later.
3, 4 times. At that point, it's not just procrastination. They're weaponizing it. It's a stall tactic.
So if they've either gone totally silent or they're just feeding you the same unbelievable excuses on a loop for weeks, their behavior is telling you this isn't a temporary cash flow problem anymore.
Exactly right. And at that point, your own internal team, your customer service people, your sales reps, they become ineffective.
Because they're trained for relationships, not for this.
Right. Their goodwill is being met with, deceit or avoidance. Continuing to use them just wastes time and pushes that invoice deeper into the financial danger zone.
Which is a perfect transition, because if their strategy is avoidance, the clock is just ticking.
Right.
And that moves us from behavior to the hard numbers, the financial metrics that scream urgency.
Yeah, now we have to talk about the aging of that debt.
So when does that timeline become a catastrophe?
We need to be very specific here. It's the 90-day threshold.
90 days.
When an invoice hits or goes past 90 days past due, you are officially in emergency territory.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not some arbitrary number. It reflects a dramatic drop in your ability to ever recover that money.
Okay, give us the numbers on that. Why is 90 days the magic, or I guess the tragic number?
So the data is pretty stark. A debt that's, say, 60 days past due, you often still have a pretty good recovery rate, maybe over 70%.
Okay, still very collectible.
Yeah. But once that invoice crosses 90 days, and especially that it heads toward 120, the recovery rates just plummet. I mean, they can drop to less than 40%.
Wow.
Every single day after that 90-day mark just exponentially increases your potential loss.
So what's actually happening to cause that huge drop? It can't just be random. Something must be changing with the debtor.
A few things are at play. First, on their end, they've already decided to pay their newer or maybe their more aggressive creditors first. You're at the bottom of the pile.
You've been deprioritized.
Completely. Second, if they're in any kind of financial trouble, that old debt on their books is a liability, so they're incentivized to delay you indefinitely. And third, the longer you wait, the more time they have to move assets around or even start preparing for a formal insolvency.
So waiting past that 3-month window doesn't just mean you're waiting for your money. It means the actual asset you're chasing, the receivable, is literally degrading in value every day.
Precisely. Time is now your enemy. Once you hit 90 days, and certainly by 120, the fight is about to get much, much harder, and that's when you really need expertise.
That sets us up perfectly for the last set of indicators where things move beyond just collecting and into
Legal threats and even your own internal limits. What happens when the debtor starts making aggressive claims?
This is a huge flashing alarm bell. If the debtor explicitly says they're bankrupt or insolvent or even just threatens to file for bankruptcy, the game changes instantly.
Everything stops.
Your internal process must stop. You've just moved into a very complex legal area that needs specialized knowledge, like right now.
You mentioned some legal terms before we started, things like preference payments or Chapter 11. Why can't a company's own accounting staff just handle those kinds of threats?
This is so vital to understand. The moment bankruptcy is on the table, your staff are operating outside their legal expertise. For instance, if they keep aggressively pursuing the debt after a bankruptcy is filed, they could violate what's called the automatic stay.
And that's bad. That's very bad. It can lead to penalties against your business and put your entire claim at risk. And then there are those preference payments.
Okay, so let me see if I've got this right. A preference payment is, say they pay you an old invoice right before they file for bankruptcy. A court can actually come back later and force you to return that money.
That is the core risk.
Yes.
The trustee can literally claw it back because you were preferred over other creditors.
That's a minefield.
It is. You need someone who understands bankruptcy law to navigate that, to file your claim properly. Continuing with your internal team at that point it's just volunteering to lose the money.
Let's turn this inward for a second. Sometimes the emergency isn't just about the debtor, it's about your own company's limitations. What about those internal capacity issues?
This is the hidden opportunity cost that businesses they always underestimate it. You have to ask yourself, who is actually chasing this 100-day-old invoice?
Right.
If it's your CEO or your head of operations or one of your top salespeople, you have an urgent capacity problem. These people, they don't have the training or the time for this.
Can you give me a real-world example of that cost? Say I have a manager makes $80,000 a year. If they spend one full day a week chasing a handful of tough accounts, what's the real cost there?
Well, the real cost isn't just the 16 grand of their salary that you're now spending on collections.
It's what they're not doing.
It's what they're not doing. It's the missed opportunity. They should be improving operations or finding new clients or developing your team. That structural problem where you're pulling people away from revenue-generating work to do debt repair, that is one of the most powerful reasons to bring in outside help. Your business is suffering because its focus is completely fractured.
That really brings all 3 points together then.
Yeah.
So we've got 3 really solid categories for urgent escalation. First, the communication breakdown.
Right. Either total silence or that endless cycle of broken promises. It signals they're deliberately avoiding you.
Second, you cross that financial line in the sand, that 90-day mark where the odds of collection just fall off a cliff.
And the value of your receivable is dropping daily.
And third, you're either facing serious legal threats, like insolvency claims, or you've hit your own internal wall. Your team just isn't equipped for the fight.
And recognizing those signs quickly. I mean, that's the difference between recovering most of your money and writing it all off. Knowing when to call for help protects your most important resources.
Your time and your focus.
Time and focus.
So you can get back to what you're actually supposed to be doing, which is growing the company.
Maybe just consider this as a final thought. It raises a question for you to take away. If recovering old debt is taking up the time of one of your key people, or maybe the combined time of a full-time employee, what higher value work is your business failing to do? The real cost of waiting isn't just the invoice, it's the opportunity cost. It's the cost of letting a problem fester until the fight requires 5 times the expertise you needed 3 months earlier.